Hi there, this is Chuck with Pocket Snakes. So on this particular whip, I've got the uh, pattern down to all black, and now I want to stick a falls. This falls is a couple feet long, and I want to put this loop up here, and then tie on a falls hitch. So there's 8 strands on the right. Sorry, there's 4 strands on the right, 4 strands on the left. And this is a strand of the core that runs throughout this whip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this loop a little bit. Fold these strands. Pull them through. Toss the core strand through. Put each of the strands through so that I can slide it on up. You don't want to be wasteful when you're cutting the strands, but you definitely don't want to run out of strand as you're braiding. So some of these strands are left long because I know that I have to tie a falls hitch down here in the end. This is a tapered falls hitch. Sorry, the falls is tapered so that when it pulls through and seats, it will tighten up the knot. And this is kind of a boring thing, but this is one of the things and one of the most important parts when you're putting a traditional bullwhip together to get right, because you don't want this knot to come apart. It's basically a chain of half hitches. So this is now around the stem. I'm going to shuck the loop back closed because there's no reason to have it long. So that's nice and tight on there. I'm going to put this on the top. This is the way I do this. I'm going to go down to where the inner strand drops out, which is pretty close to the end of this whip. It's doubled most of the way. Put it here. Take this top right strand, which is where I would be braiding, right around. Down through. That's a half hitch against the stem. And you can toss an overhand kind of knot in it so that you keep track of which strands are which if you wish. I'm going to take the top left strand, line that one up against it. Tie another knot to keep track of it. So now I've got 3 on the right and 3 on the left. You want to go over all the strands that are tucked behind. Another half hitch. You'll notice that kind of try and keep them in a row. So I've got 2 on the right, 3 on the left. See that. And 2 on the right and 2 on the left. All it's really doing is creating a chain of half hitches here. So it's not as complicated as you might worry. One on the right, 2 on the left, the top strand. Half hitch, line it up. This is the last strand on the right. It up. And then we have the bottom strand on the left, and we're going to go around, we're going to go through, but notice I'm going up instead of down. There's a reason for that, and that's to make sure the knot doesn't come apart, because it's just a chain of half hitches. And always be careful with nylon and fire. This is a neat trick. You can take a needle and put on a sheath of whatever material you're using, in this case a different color. Bring it up through the loop on the falls. And I was. up through the falls. Flat against the stem. And down through the half hitch loop. This bottom half hitch you need to kind of snug up. So we tied it around the left side, so you snug it up a little bit to the right. Bring it up over this piece. Back down. So then you have to go back, and each of these that have the knot are one of the half hitches. So to snug up each of them. You want to grab the falls. And the idea is you're going to drive this wedge, because this is bigger up here than it is down here, through that knot. And it's really kind of tough to pull through. And this has only got 2 layers of 550 cord. You may need to work your fit in. You may need to move this loop up a little bit. It has a fairly straight path to seat. I really should do this with a different color, I suppose, that you can see. Okay, so now I've seated the front of the falls. And this is the back of the falls where all the half hitches terminate. And untie them as I give them another crank. Set them aside. And this is the core strand. So the core strand in this case is a 550 that was in the very center of the core, all the way down, and also black. Then I like to take, you want to make sure you don't cut the falls off because the falls is heavier. It's easy to see. I like to leave like 3 fingers worth because that's enough to retie this falls hitch if you need to without unbraiding some of your web. Now you can make it shorter and you'll have less aerodynamic impact. But and then these little guys, just seal the ends of them so that they don't unravel and turn into puffs. And you can just use a regular lighter if you want. It makes little hard points on this, on the ends of these. But that's how to create a falls hitch. And you can roll this and try and get it even more compacted. But that makes a nice falls hitch. So you can see the nature of it. And the bottom half hitch goes up through and back down. Comes out the bottom as one of the strands. Then this is the falls. In this case, it's doubled to right here. This little white piece is a quick change for your cracker. So it's a quick change loop to add crackers. This is just a mason line cracker right now. I'll probably replace it with a Kevlar cracker on this whip, but I just happen to have this laying here. These are nice and loud. They're a tapered cracker. One of my snapdragon crackers is tapered, doubled up through here, and then becomes narrower. And it's got about a thumb's length or a little over an inch of feather on it. A couple half hitches. This braided mason twine. It's not the longest lasting cracker type, but it's got a bright sound. So anyway, this has been how to put a false hitch on your ball whip for those interested. Those interested in where I was dropping strands, here's where I dropped the 4 reds out. And so I dropped 4 strands to keep the ring pattern the same. This is 12 plate through here. And then I dropped the yellow strands, 4 of them, into the core. And this is an 8 plate in black, and it tapers down because you're going over those strands and the core. And then down here, when I ran out of the pieces drop off one at a time as it comes down. And then down here, I braided over the core strand. And the core strand in this whip is 550, so this is really thin 550 cord, this press flat. It's 650 cord. But this black shrinks up more than the other colors. But you can see the difference in width between that and the whipmaker cord. So, anyway, that's my quick instructional on how to make a false hitch.